Well, hello everybody, Roger here, and welcome to my channel, Rogers Reads. So today, I'm going to do a video of the top 10 books that I've read this quarter. Since I tend to read quite a few books every month, I figured that I'd do a quick video revisiting my top reads for the first quarter of 2018. I'll try to do this with every quarter, if I remember. I wasn't going to choose only the top 5 books, but I found it kind of difficult to limit it down to only 5, so I decided, what the heck, I'll go with 10. So the first book on my list is Simon versus the Homo sapiens Agenda. This book follows 16-year-old Simon Spears, who is gay, but nobody knows about it. And he's also been corresponding with this boy anonymously via email, with neither of them knowing the other one's identity. Simon only knows this boy by the name of Blue. But when one of their emails falls into the wrong hands, Simon's secret is at risk of being exposed. The person who saw the email is now blackmailing Simon, and Simon has to figure out how to keep his secret safe without alienating or betraying his friends, or messing a shot at a happiness with the mysterious Blue, who Simon appears to be falling for the more that they correspond. This book is a realistic look at high school relationships and drama that's all wrapped up in a happy ending. I saw this movie as well, and I really liked the movie as well as the book. So my next favorite book was Anna Dressed in Blood by Kendara Blake. This story follows Cass, who is a ghost hunter just like his father before him. Armed with his father's mysterious and deadly ghost hunting knife, Cass travels the country with his mom as they follow local legends and lore about evil ghosts that harm people, and then Cass destroys them. But in Toronto, I think it was Toronto, Cass encounters a ghost, nothing like he's ever come across before. A ghost that the locals call Anna Dressed in Blood, because she wears the same blood-drenched dress that she wore the day she got murdered. And this ghost is entangled in curses and rage. Since her death, Anna has killed every single person who has dared enter her old homestead. But yet, when Cass enters the house, she spares Cass's life. And then the fun begins. So this was an excellent horror novel. And I also read the sequel, which is called Girl of Nightmares, which was also very good. So the third book on my list is a book entitled They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. Now, in the world of this book, there's a service called Deathcast that calls up people between the hours of midnight and 3 a.m. to let them know that they are going to die that day. Now, Rufus and Mateo, the two protagonists, both receive the dreaded phone call, informing them that they are going to be dead within the next 24 hours. Now, there is an app available called the Last Friend app, in which Deckers, which is the name given to those who've received the Deathcast call, can find each other and, if they so choose, opt to spend their last day together. Though Mateo and Rufus do have loved ones, outside circumstances intervenes to keep them apart from their loved ones. So instead, they reach out to each other via the app. So once they meet in person, they make the decision to spend their last hours with each other and to help them face their fears and to say goodbye. This was a haunting and moving book, but was also beautiful, and I absolutely loved it. But I will warn you, you'll need a box of Kleenex handy for this one. So the fourth book I want to mention is entitled Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. So in the real world, 18-year-old Eliza is shy and friendless, basically a nobody. She tries to keep a very low profile. But online, she is a star. Eliza is known as Lady Constellation, the anonymous creator of a popular webcomic called Monstrous Sea, with millions and millions of followers and fans throughout the world. Then a boy named Wallace transfers to her school, and Eliza begins to wonder maybe whether a life offline might be worthwhile as well. But when Eliza's secret is accidentally shared with the world, everything that she's built up to this point, her story, her relationship with Wallace, even her sanctity begins to fall apart. And as her world entirely changes in one day, Eliza is forced out of her shell and is faced with making some very important life-changing decisions. This was a really, really fun book about fandoms and creatives. Now, the fifth book I want to talk about is entitled Scythe by Neal Shusterman. I've also done a review of this book on this channel. So in a utopian world in which humanity has conquered death with no more aging, disease, or poverty or war, scythes are the only ones who are allowed to take a human life. And they roam the world gleaning people, which is scythe speak for killing, in order to keep the population in check. So this particular story follows two young people, Citra Terranova and Rowan Damish, who are chosen by a respected scythe to become scythe apprentices. So they are thrown into this strange world in which they need to master the art of death, but also into a corrupt world of the scythedom, where there are those scythes who do not have their best interests at heart. I listened to this book on Audible, and it was absolutely amazing. And I just finished the sequel as well, which is entitled Thunderhead, which I'll do a review in an upcoming video. The sixth book on my May list is The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. So this story follows Star Carter, who witnesses the fatal shooting of her childhood best friend Khalil at the hands of a police officer. Khalil was unarmed at the time. So soon afterwards, news of his death becomes a national headline, and protesters take to the streets, all in Khalil's name. Some officers and even a local drug lord try to intimidate Star and her family during this period. So what everybody wants to know is, what really went down that night? And of course, the only person alive who can answer that question is Star. Though speaking out may not only thrust her community into utter chaos, but it could also endanger her life. And if you've been on BookTube for a while, you've no doubt heard of this book because it's been pretty much all over. And it was definitely well worth the hype, in my opinion. I loved it. So the seventh book I want to talk about is entitled The Apocalypse of Elena Mendoza, written by Sean David Hutchinson. So this story follows 16-year-old Elena, who, after witnessing the girl that she has a crush on, Freddie, get shot in a Starbucks parking lot, she finds herself suddenly with the ability to heal Freddie. Now, a moment later, the boy that shot Freddie disappears right before their eyes, getting sucked up into the clouds. And then there are the voices that keep telling Elena that she has to help prevent the world from ending by healing as many people as possible. So, as more unexplainable things occur and Elena continues to perform miracles, the only remaining explanation is that the world is actually coming to an end, and Elena is possibly the only one who can do anything about it. This was another Sean David Hutchinson favorite, and it was a lot of fun. So the eighth book on my list is The Bear the Nightingale by Kathleen Arden. So after Vasilisa's mother dies, her father goes to Moscow and brings home a new wife who is fiercely devout. The new stepmother forbids her family from honoring or making offerings to the household spirits. So the family agrees to her wishes, but then bad things start to happen. Crops begin to fail, evil creatures from the forest creep nearer and nearer, and children from the village sicken and begin to die. As danger draws even nearer and old, powerful forces are awakened, Vasilisa calls upon her innate gifts that she has long concealed from everyone in order to protect her family from a threat that seems to have stepped right out of her childhood nightmares. This was an excellent book, especially if you like fairy tales and folklore. And I do believe that this is part of a trilogy, or at least there's another one, and which I plan on picking up. So the ninth book that made my favorites list was The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. So this story follows a young bisexual British lord who embarks on an unforgettable grand tour of Europe with his best friend, Percy, whom he has a secret crush on, and his sister. But one of Monty's reckless decisions turns their trip abroad into a harrowing manhunt as the three of them are on the run. And that's where the adventure really begins. They get captured by pirates, encounter murderous alchemists, get arrested, end up on a sinking island, and even encounter zombie-ish type of characters. But to go into any more detail would dangerously head into spoiler territory, which we don't want to do that. But yeah, this book was a wild and crazy romp, and I absolutely loved it. This was a fun read. And the last book that made my top 10 list was The Dangerous Art of Blending In, written by Angelo Surmelis. So this story follows 17-year-old Evan Panos, whose strict immigrant Greek mother abuses him both physically and verbally. And to top it all off, his best friend Henry has somehow become distractingly attractive over the summer. And yes, Evan also kissed a boy over the summer at Bible camp. But it's now Henry who's proving to be irresistible. And much to Evan's surprise, Henry suddenly seems interested in becoming more than friends with him as well. But as things with Henry heat up and his mother's abuse escalates, Evan has to decide how to find his voice in a world where he has survived so long by being silent and trying to stay under his mother's radar. Though this book was intense, it was also an excellent story about a boy who learns to overcome his circumstances and step into his own light. And those are my top 10 books for the first quarter of 2018. So how about you? What are some of your favorite reads of this year? Let me know in the comments. And that's it for this time. Thank you so much for watching. And as usual, I really appreciate your support. And I will talk to you in the next video. Bye-bye.